Hey, before I start the show, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you could do me a favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel, sign up for notifications. It'll really help get the word out about Take Pride in Retirement and spread the word about all the great things that we're doing here. Now, on with the show. Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of Take Pride in Retirement. Matt McClure here with you, your host, your advisor, your friend, your pal, and your confidant. Thanks so much for being a part of things, as always.
And I'm Josh Rednoble, the attaché to the advisor, aka co-host.
AKA hubby co-host hubby. Thank you so much, as I said, for being a part of the show. I'm really enjoying having you on here as well. And I'm really enjoying having the listeners / viewers with us. If you are on the old YouTube machine, give us a like and a subscribe. I'd appreciate that. I know Josh would too, because, you know, it what helps me helps him, essentially.
Subscribe. Still working on the tune.
Yeah. Well, we can workshop it a little bit. It'll be good. But yeah, give us a follow there and like, subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all the socials. We got your Blue Sky. We got your Face Place, aka Facebook. We got Threads. We got Instagram. We're like all over the place, even on LinkedIn. If you want to follow me, Matt McClure, RSSACAS at LinkedIn, you'll see my little smiling face there and you'll know who I am and all that. So yeah, please do follow us all the places. Really would appreciate it. Today here on the show, it's going to be a bit of a heavy topic, but it's going to be one that's super important. And we know as a married couple how important this discussion is. And as children of, older parents, we know how important this topic is. We're tackling it this week, both in this episode and the next, one that a lot of people just avoid, but they really need to understand. And that's what happens financially when you lose a spouse. And so for our LGBTQ plus community, this is a really important conversation because we face unique challenges that maybe the more quote unquote traditional people don't take into account, and maybe the traditional financial planning might overlook, right?
You're right. It's a difficult topic. And I just want to say, before we dive into this, I just want to give a shout out to all of our LGBTQ plus listeners and allies. And I just want to say, if you want to schedule a 100% complimentary meeting with Matt, there's no obligation. I keep saying he's the advisor that cares. This is a difficult topic for so many of us, especially in the community. So whether it's about your own financial situation or your family or your business, he's here to help. And he truly understands the unique challenges that face our community.
It's true. And, you can go to the website, takeprideinretirement.com. If you're watching on YouTube, by the way, you'll see it scroll across the bottom of your screen there throughout the episode. So do that. Also, you can go to, again, takeprideinretirement.com, schedule that free. It's complimentary consultation, no cost, no obligation, all that stuff. Also call me if you'd rather, 855-246-9211, 855-246-9211. And you can also listen to previous episodes of the show at takeprideinretirement.com, by the way. Mm-hmm. And yeah, widowhood is something, I guess, widowhood and widowerhood, if that's a thing. But losing a spouse, it's an emotional thing. And it brings a lot of stress along with the financial thing. Even without financial surprises, there's enough stress to go around for everyone in that situation. And so, reach out. I encourage you to do that. But also, we're going to cover a lot of this on the show here today. And let's jump right in, shall we?
Yeah, well, that's like when we're talking about losing a spouse, most people immediately think about the emotional impact, the grief, the loss, the adjustment. But there's a financial side to this that I think catches a lot of people off guard. And what I would ask you, Matt, can you break down what we're really talking about here?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head when you say most people probably do think about that emotional thing. I mean, that emotional loss, I can't even imagine, can be very overwhelming. We have both witnessed that happen, like with our parents, because both of our dads passed away, and our moms were still around. And my mom still thankfully is. Unfortunately, Josh's has also passed away. But it is a difficult thing. I know emotionally, both of our moms went through it and we saw it firsthand. And while we were also grieving ourselves. And so it's a difficult thing. A lot of retirees, though, the financial shock can be just as life altering. And, women are especially vulnerable because of their longer life expectancy. Again, both of our moms living longer than our dads, and often lower lifetime earnings. Like, my mom didn't earn as much as my dad over her lifetime, over her working lifetime, because, she was doing a lot of staying at home and taking care of myself and my sister and my grandmother and all that while my dad went out to work. So that is a huge thing. And really, when we bring it home to LGBTQ plus couples, it's a really important conversation because we have fought so hard for so long for marriage equality and for survivor benefits. And so we got to make sure that you are protecting those rights. We are all collectively protecting those rights and also using those rights to our advantage because we have them, use them, right? And, a lot of us also face additional challenges, like luckily enough for Josh and myself, we have had great family support. We've had a lot of friends and acquaintances and all of that who have not necessarily had the family support that we have been lucky enough to have, and we both realize how blessed we are because of that. But people have dealt with discrimination. I've dealt with workplace discrimination before. We were just having a conversation about that earlier today. And even in like financial and healthcare settings, I've told the story about your kidney stone before. And so it can be a difficult thing to navigate, but obviously LGBTQ plus folks have a unique set of challenges as per usual.
Yeah. And earlier you talked about the financial shock, right, of this, which is life altering. So what does that actually look like if we're talking about real numbers?
Oh yeah. So we've looked up some studies on this, and according to the federal government numbers, actually more than 1.2 million Americans age 60 and older lose a spouse every year. And so 1.2 million, it's not uncommon, see? And newly widowed individuals experience an average income drop of about 11%, even after they adjust for household size. About 16% of newly widowed older adults fall below the poverty line, compared to 10% of their non-widowed peers. Because you got that loss of income, right? Even in a situation where maybe you're both taking Social Security. Well, one of those Social Security payments is going to go away. We'll talk more about that in just a bit. And the kicker, though, is that about 41% say they had no prior financial planning discussions with their spouse. They're just caught completely off guard. I've been, in this business a few years now. And by business, I mean financial advice and working with clients and all of that. Luckily, none of my clients have passed away or experienced their spouses pass away. But the overwhelming thing that keeps coming up when I talk to other financial advisors about it is that they see it all the time with older folks who maybe they've been working with for years, but only one spouse has been the one who's been involved. And so it catches the other spouse off guard. They don't even know what they have when it comes right down to it in the end. And so about 41%, so more than 4 out of 10 people say that they have had no prior financial planning discussions with their spouse. It's kind of crazy.
And well, that's scary. So no planning at all. That seems like something that couples should be talking about. I know it's not comfortable to talk about, especially you don't want to think about losing your spouse at all, right. But there needs to be a plan, right?
Yeah, there's got to be a plan. I used to work with a guy who would say he was in the military, and he would say proper prior planning prevents pitifully poor performance, the 5 Ps. But that you really, when they say it out in the military, there was another word instead of pitifully, but you get the idea. So yeah, a plan is like essential. So it's one of those uncomfortable conversations, as you said, that a lot of people just tend to avoid, but it's an important one. And so for LGBTQ plus couples, there's sometimes that kind of extra layer, right, of reluctance, because, if you don't think about it, we've only sort of recently gained these rights. And especially when you're looking at older LGBTQ plus couples, the people as like relative to their overall lifespan, you haven't had these rights for all that long. And so talking about death feels like maybe you're not celebrating enough about having the rights, but it can be part of that celebration, actually, is because it's an act of love. It's you making sure that the other person is going to be taken care of, right? And so avoiding the conversation doesn't make it go away. It's one of those tough lessons that I have had to learn in my life. It's like when I was in elementary school, avoiding homework didn't make it go away. It just meant that you had more work to do later on. So Yeah, I mean, you've got all these things like combination of income loss, potential tax changes, any ongoing expenses. Experts really kind of look at that as a financial double hit for widows and widowers.
Okay, so what do you mean by a double hit?
Well, I mean, so it's not only at the same time the income is going down, expenses a lot of times stay the same or they even increase. So you'd be surprised at like, okay, the electricity bill. You'll think, oh, well, one person's not here anymore using, so my power bill is going down by like 50%. No, it does not happen that way. You still keep the AC going. You still, use the same appliances and all that. Maybe you don't wash as many loads of clothes or something, but it's not gonna just fall off a cliff. And so you've got to account for that, like housing costs, your healthcare needs, debt obligations. They can become harder to manage on that single income that you're left with. And a lot of widows and widowers have to navigate critical financial decisions, like when to claim Social Security, which is a huge one. It's one I talk about with folks all the time, or whether to downsize. Like, during a period of that grief and stress, you're worrying about your finances. You're worrying about where you're living. Is this house too big for just me? Is it too much to manage now that I'm getting older? All those things keep coming up, but you've got to go through that period of mourning as well. And so you want to take care of as many of those things as possible from the jump in the beginning ahead of time so that you don't have to worry about and stress over it all when you're already stressed out enough.
Right. So it's like if you wait too long, you're having to make all these major financial decisions at literally the worst possible time in your life emotionally.
Yeah. Like nobody makes good decisions at a time when they are just in utter grief and mourning, right? And having it taken care of, having a plan in place beforehand is so important for that very reason. There's also this lack of financial literacy. We talked about that a little bit, I think, last time, and financial sort of involvement prior to a spouse's death that can lead to benefits that you miss out on because you didn't know they were there. Higher debt, costly mistakes. For LGBTQ plus couples, again, it is critical to have just ironclad estate documents because of those potentially unsupportive family members that I mentioned earlier. You might be in that situation. And we've seen that actually with a friend of ours who passed not all that long ago. And it wasn't necessarily that family wasn't supportive of him, but there were like some estranged family members for other reasons. And it's here they come crawling in at the last minute after somebody is gone saying like, ooh, hoo, how can I get my hands on what they had? I'm legally entitled to it. Well, if you've got an estate plan that names other people and places things in trusts and makes it go to this person instead of that person, you've got ironclad documentation of the things that you have and of your wishes. And so you got to be proactive in planning. You got to understand survivor benefits. You've got to maintain updated estate documents, coordinate your claiming strategies as far as like Social Security and that sort of thing. And all of that can reduce your financial hardship at a time when, you don't need it anytime, but especially in the aftermath of the loss of a spouse.
Right. And so, Matt, if you want to say what's the takeaway here for our listeners about this?
Well, I mean, preparing for the financial realities of becoming a widow or a widower is not something that's pessimistic. It's not something that should drag you down and make you feel bad and all this stuff. That's not why we say the things that we say. That's not why we're giving the information we're giving. It's not to scare you or make you feel bad. It's essential because you want to protect your spouse. You want to protect your loved ones. You want to protect your independence and your financial security in retirement. And you want to take that worry off of the table. And so, we don't talk about this stuff to be morbid. We talk about it because it's so important, right? It's about being smart, protecting the people that you love. And it's also about protecting the rights that we fought so hard for as LGBTQ plus folks. So go to our website. It is takeprideinretirement.com, takeprideinretirement.com. You can set up a free consultation there. When I say free, it is absolutely free of any cost or any obligation. You can also give me a call, 855-246-9211, 855-246-9211.
Do it, guys. I keep saying that.
Did.
Just because it's important to start planning, and you want someone in your corner like Matt that understands us, understands our community, and has your best interest at heart, because there's a lot of people that do not.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say about that. I'm not just saying that because he's my husband. So I would say now we've established that there's a financial impact, right? So let's get into the specifics about that. So what are the main income sources that change when someone loses a spouse? What happens?
Yeah, a lot. So the emotions, yeah, are one thing, but then there's also the financial side. And so that's where it kind of gets kind of technical, but it's crucial to understand. Losing a spouse often creates really this immediate financial shift, but a lasting one as well, because Social Security is going to be probably more than, well, not more than cut in, maybe a little bit less than cut in half, but one of those checks is going to go away. The higher amount of the two is going to go away. Possibly part of a pension will just kind of disappear overnight. I think that's one of the biggest things that people don't necessarily think about ahead of time.
Well, that's what I say. So both Social Security checks don't continue.
No, not at all. So wouldn't it be nice if they did? But they don't. This is one of those things that I sort of, learned about in the thick of things when my dad passed away a few years ago. And it was that my mom gets contacted by the Social Security Administration. They say, here's your new benefit amount. And it was my dad's benefit amount that she was going to then be receiving. And her benefit amount, the old one, went away. So that's essentially what happens is he was the higher earner, right? And so he had the higher Social Security benefit. So the lower of those two checks went away. She got to keep the higher one. So that is by law. It's reduced when one spouse dies. And the average survivor benefit for widows is roughly about $1,500 to $1,800 a month. And that's according to the Social Security Administration, but it may be significantly lower than the couple's prior combined income, right? So if your spouse, like maybe if you and your spouse earned close to the same thing, you weren't necessarily eligible for a spousal benefit while they were alive or anything like that. You had maybe close benefit numbers, then you're going to get a close to 50% reduction in that case in your Social Security benefit. It can cost you a lot.
So you could be losing potentially thousands of dollars per month just from Social Security alone.
Yep. And then you've got to take into account any other income sources, right? I mean, the financial impact of widowhood is so huge, and it's often underestimated when you're doing your retirement planning, even though, the death of the spouse can, as I said, cut household income by at least a third, maybe up to 50% like that.
And what about pensions? Do that still continues or no?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. It depends on the actual structure of the pension itself. It depends on exactly how it was set up. They're becoming fewer and farther between these days. It's been that way for a while, but really these days they're fewer and farther between. And so pension income may continue for a widow. Oftentimes, though, it's at a reduced level, maybe at 50%, if it's like a joint and survivor pension structure kind of a thing. Now, I'm not saying obviously that's going to be true for everybody, because as I mentioned, there are different structures to different pensions. Some pensions may stop entirely depending on how it was originally set up. And so, maybe if it's an older single life type pension or annuity, then that spouse passes away and that money is gone as well.
So basically decisions that you made years ago about how to structure this pension could have huge consequences later.
Yeah. And that's the thing is you've got to have in mind when you're making any decisions about pensions or making any decisions about annuities, about Social Security, you've got to have your mindset on the fact that you're playing the long game, right? You are not, this is not a short-term thing that you're thinking about or planning for. This is your future. This is your retirement future. And this is the future after your spouse is gone, or after you are gone, and your future for your spouse. So yeah, pension and retirement plan election choices that you make when you're much younger, much earlier on in your life can have lasting consequences. And it's so important to work with a financial advisor who understands the unique needs of LGBTQ plus individuals and couples. Somebody who knows the history, somebody who lives it, somebody who respects our relationship, somebody who gets you basically, and can help navigate, both the financial and the legal sort of landscape here. And I say legal in a general sense because I'm not an attorney or anything, but I can help make sure that you are put in the right direction. Maybe contact an estate planning attorney. We work with a service that can provide those, and you can get, estate plans done at one of the lowest costs you're going to find. You can, of course, ask about that when you reach out. But, some of us may have had pensions from before we could legally marry, for example. And that adds another layer of complexity. So it can be a difficult thing. That's why you want to work with somebody who, does this all the time.
Yeah. And now you mentioned everyone's favorite topic, taxes. So how do taxes change when you lose a spouse?
Everyone's, especially this time of year when people are filing their taxes, finding out
where's my money going,
how much you're getting back or not. But yeah, taxes, it's another big hit. Tax filing status can shift from married to single in most cases, and that can actually increase your taxable income and reduce the deductions that are available to you. And much like I'm not an attorney, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a tax attorney either, or anything like that, but just general rule of thumb, that is what can happen. Up to 85% of your Social Security benefits can be taxable. That doesn't mean you're going to pay 85% tax rate on your Social Security benefits, but it means you'll pay whatever tax rate you pay on up to 85% of that income. Thresholds, though, are lower for single filers than for married couples. And so that's, it's not a situation you want to be surprised by when it happens.
Well, no, because it's confusing because you're making less money, but potentially paying a higher percentage of taxes.
Yep. It's one of those weird things about the tax system. And it's people, we talked about the widow's tax or the widow's penalty before on the show. That's why it's called that, because your income drops, but your tax rate actually increases because of the filing status change. And so tax planning, future tax planning, I could obviously help with. We help people with Roth conversions and all of that all the time to increase your tax-free bucket of money. Just had a meeting today actually with someone about that, trying to come up with an amount about, okay, how much can we afford to convert every year without throwing us into another tax bracket, all this stuff. And so it really does become critical to look at that for widows, widowers who have lost their spouse, and especially in LGBTQ plus community.
Is there anything people can do ahead of time to minimize this impact?
Oh yeah, if you understand the survivor benefit sort of rules, couples can make smarter claiming decisions ahead of time, right? I mean, it's something that I talk with folks about all the time. You were there. You were my attaché at our Social Security seminar we had not long ago.
Indeed.
And signing people in and all that stuff and showing them where the bathroom is, which is always a good thing.
Look, someone has to do it.
When you got to go, you got to go. And you got to know where
the
you got to
bathroom
go.
down there. And they got to learn something and know where the bathroom
I know.
was.
And you gave them bottles of water, which was the most important thing. So then they could later, when they had to go to the bathroom, they knew where it was. Anyway, but that was one of the big questions, right? Is what's a spousal benefit while you're alive, potentially, and who's eligible for that? But then also, what is the survivor benefit? How is that calculated, figured out, and everything? And so, like, if the higher earning spouse, for example, delays Social Security, then that can reduce the widow's risk, whoever the person who is left behind is, if that is the lower earning spouse, obviously, it can reduce the risk of financial hardship because you've maxed out your benefit. And so then the spouse passes away and they see their monthly check go up, but then theirs that was less goes away. So it's still a reduction in that income, but you sort of minimize that as much as possible if you just time it right.
So there's a significant difference basically just from the timing alone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's why it's important to plan ahead. You've got to have an idea of what you want to do. You don't just want to make decisions kind of willy-nilly, get to 62 and say, well, I'm eligible for Social Security now and I'll just take it. Maybe that's the right decision for you. Who knows? Chances are it's probably not, because, waiting at least until your full retirement age may be more advantageous unless you just are really in need of the money right then. So get some help in making that plan and make a plan that is right for you, not for, Joe down the street or, Sherry who lives in the next town over. You are not Joe or Sherry. You are you.
Sorry, I never know how much I could sing and get in trouble. So
yeah, no, it's a couple of notes, probably fine. But yeah, this is the kind of thing that we do with people every day, and I really love doing that, just helping people kind of see through the weeds and see through the fog.
Yeah, I think this has just been, especially for me, it's just really eye-opening. And I think a lot of our listeners are going to realize they need to have some conversations with their spouse and their financial advisor, which I hope will be you, Matt.
Well, me too. But yeah, as we said, it's not easy to discuss these kind of topics, but it's important that we do. And so go to takeprideinretirement.com. Once again, takeprideinretirement.com. You can schedule the free consultation there. And when I say free, I mean free. There is no cost. There is no obligation at all. Later on, so in a couple of days, we're going to talk about, in our next episode, the most kind of common mistakes people make in the first year of widowhood and what couples can do now to protect each other in the future.
I love that. Looking forward to it. And like Matt said, listen, if you're thinking about your own situation, I would say don't wait. Just reach out to him, schedule that free consultation, and start making that plan so that you feel more secure about your future.
Yeah, that's why I do what I do. And I'm here to help you navigate all of those decisions that are not easy, and they can be really complex and confusing. So yeah, reach out. Absolutely. TakePrideInRetirement.com. All right. So that is going to do it for this edition of the show. Mr. Josh, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matt.
Mr. I feel so formal.
And like I said, subscribe.
Yes. Like and subscribe. And you get, a free tune sung to you every time every time he sings that, an angel gets its wings and somebody subscribes to the show. So please do it. I'd appreciate that. We both would very, very much. Until next time, take pride in yourselves and take care of each other. We'll see you then.